All right, let's go ahead and get this going. An email lands in your inbox. The subject line glows with promise. Congratulations, you're leading the new initiative. You think to yourself, this is it. They finally called my number for something big. This project could define my year. This is the one that's going to get me noticed. The one that could finally lead to that promotion. You get this big surge of excitement, but as your project gets going, you start to get a weird feeling. A cold, familiar dread starts to creep in. You see the tight deadlines, the massive expectations, the weekly meeting cadence increasing, along with your stress levels. But that's not all. The team that you're supposed to lead, the developers, the analysts, the marketers, and the specialists whose work will make or break this entire thing, they don't report to you. You have all of the responsibility, but none of the formal authority. Does this sound familiar? Welcome to the world of project management, where you're expected to control everything, when in reality, you control nothing. This is the ultimate workplace paradox. It's like being asked to win a boxing match with your hands tied behind your back. It can make you feel less like a project manager and more like a punching bag with the schedule, absorbing all of the blame without any real power. But what if I told you this situation isn't a career killer? What if it's actually a leadership test in disguise? What do I mean? Let's get into it. This paradox of having tons of responsibility with little to no power is actually pretty common in most modern companies today. They're called matrix organizations, and they're built to be flexible, share expertise across different departments, and literally make your life hell. But all jokes aside, essentially this means when you bring together a project team, you're not their direct manager. They don't report to you, you don't determine their salaries, and for the most part, their careers don't depend on your opinion of their work performance. And in case that's not bad enough for you, here's the cherry on top. They actually know this too, which could lead to some very unique problems on your project from time to time, but I digress. The problem isn't the setup. It's that nobody ever gives the playbook for how to actually operate within this setup. It's like being handed the keys to a McLaren Formula One car that you've never driven before and being told to win the race. In other words, good luck, we hope you make it. I've been in that driver's seat. I've seen firsthand how it can lead to burnout, lots of frustration, and completely feeling powerless right before you crash into a wall at 200 miles an hour. And I survived, thankfully. Through that experience, I learned that leading without authority isn't necessarily a limitation. It's more like a superpower. Let me explain. Real leadership isn't defined by your title. It's actually defined by your impact, your influence, and your ability to drive that team, even when things seem like they're completely out of control. In this video, I'm not going to give you a bunch of fuzzy best practices like communicate more or be a leader. No, I'm here to give you a real playbook on how to turn this situation from a career threat into a real career-defining opportunity. These are the 5 steps that you need to do today to not only get people to listen to you, but to actually follow you, even when they don't want to. Step number 1, don't delegate tasks. Tell a story. The first mistake that most of us make when we get a brand new project is diving straight into documenting what needs to be done. We open a spreadsheet, we start assigning tasks, and schedule a bunch of meetings. Good, we have some motion. And eventually we end up with a large list of things to do. This is usually the point when most PMs become task managers. You drafted the plan, what else is there to do, right? Right? Yes, you may have a great plan in place, but with no formal authority, just managing tasks is what we like to call the losing game. Think about it. Everyone on your team already has a boss that they report to, and it's not you. Their boss may be giving them a different set of tasks with different priorities on a weekly basis, and those kinds of changes will directly affect your project. And unfortunately, you will always lose the battle of competing priorities when a divisional manager decides they have something better for their person to do. So what's the best approach? Well, let's start by thinking differently. First, your job isn't to be a task manager or the best project scheduler. It's to be a storyteller, a meaning maker, a guide. You need to answer the why of this project so clearly that it becomes the North Star for the entire team. Why does this project matter to the company? Why does it matter to our customers? And most importantly, what does it mean to the people in this room right now? This isn't about creating some fluffy mission statement that no one's going to read anyway. This is about getting to the core of what this project is meant to do in very plain language before you discuss anything else. And this is the key. The more you involve other people in this process, the better. Include your sponsor, your engineers, your subject matter experts, your customers, and anyone else you could think of who will be impacted by this project in those core meaning discussions. Chances are the project will mean different things to different people, but this is exactly the type of information that you need to put that large list of work into proper perspective. This is the information that helps you create the formal project charter that's actually backed by your sponsor and can clearly define the project's vision, goals, and scope. All that stuff that PMI tells you need to do. And a very funny thing happens when people feel like they're part of creating the plan. They take on a sense of ownership because they're not just being told what to do or what they're going to be given. They're given the chance to actually express what the project means to them early on in the process. And this reveals a lot more than any to-do list ever could. If you can achieve buy-in, shared enthusiasm, and provide a clear vision on why this matters, you will gain what professionals like to call provisional authority. This is the next best thing to actual authority in a project manager's world. So in other words, it gives you a much better chance that people will actually start to listen to you. You're not just telling folks, do this because I'm the project manager. You're saying, hey, let's do this because it moves us all forward. Here's exactly how we're going to do it. And more importantly, here's why we need to do it. And believe me, people are more likely to follow someone who gives their work some purpose, not just someone who gives them more work to do. Step number 2, become an architect of clarity. The next job is to get rid of the one thing that grinds all of your projects to a halt: ambiguity. In a matrix organization, team members are constantly being pulled in different directions, which leads to conflicting priorities and a lot of confusion at the end of the day. Your job in these situations is to become what we like to call the architect of clarity. You don't just want to be clear on the why, but also the who, the what, the when, and especially the how. This means that you actually need to facilitate things, not dictate them. To be a boss without formal command power, the best way to gain influence is by guiding the project team to make its own decisions, even if that decision was yours to begin with. Believe me, it works. So for example, instead of just assigning project roles in the dark before your next status meeting, lead an actual discussion to define the roles of your team. Use simple tools like a RACI chart. Make it painfully obvious who owns what, but let the team tell you what they can do and what they can't do. Because it's not about you telling people what their jobs are. It's about them agreeing to the rules of engagement before the work actually begins. This also applies to communication. And here's a fun fact. You absolutely must set the rhythm of communication from day one on your project. How are we going to talk to each other? When should we use chat versus email versus a meeting? What's the goal of our weekly check-in? These are not just boring details or things that you should predetermine yourself. These are the guardrails that actually keep the project from flying off the road with the people who matter the most. So get your team's feedback, find some alignment, stick to the plan from day one, and this will save you trouble down the line when you can't figure out why your sponsor hasn't responded to the 3rd email you sent them this week. It's probably because they don't like email. You should know this. And last but not least, before your first team meeting, sit down with your own boss or project sponsor and get clear on your limits. And don't be afraid to ask tough questions like, does this project take priority over other work? If someone on the team doesn't deliver, will their manager have my back? Or more importantly, will you have my back? Knowing where the lines are drawn before a conflict happens helps you navigate things with a lot more confidence instead of desperation. Your job is to make the path forward so clear that doing the right thing becomes the easiest option for everyone. Step number 3, build relational capital like it's your job. Because in all reality, it actually is. On a traditional org chart, power is given or assumed. Whoever's higher on that chart is in charge. But in a matrix organization, when it comes to project management, power is earned. And the currency you use to earn it is something experts like to call relational capital. Don't be the PM who treats relationship building like a soft skill. Be the one who treats relationship building like it's an important strategic task. Knowing who pulls the strings and how to influence them goes a very long way when things get sticky on your project. This isn't about becoming best friends with everyone, unless you want to do that. But it's more about understanding everyone else's world, what matters in their day-to-day, and how you can make their life just a little bit easier. You want to do what you can to find some one-on-one time with everyone on your project team before getting in the habit of asking them for things. Ask them about their career goals, what other projects they're juggling, and what their actual boss's priorities are at the moment. You can get a lot of insight from that. And then just listen. Once you get the intel, act on it. This is the easiest way to gain influence early with the people who are in control of things. Now, when you understand their motivations, their constraints, and most importantly, their fears, you can frame everything that you do in a way that helps them win too. For example, instead of saying something like, "Are you on track to finish this analysis by Friday?" which is lame, you could try something different, like this. "Hey, I know your manager is focused on improving data efficiency this quarter. Look, the analysis for this project could be a great way to show off your skills in that area to some senior leadership. If we can get the draft done by Friday, I can highlight this in the next stakeholder meeting." I hope you can see the difference there. I really do. You're not reminding them about a task that they need to do. You're connecting your project need to their personal win, which makes it much more likely for you to get your personal win. Win-win, right? Lastly, to secure relational capital, give credit to people, publicly and generously. When a team member does great work or saves the day, don't just thank them in a private email. Make sure that everyone else knows this too. Mention their contribution in your next status report. Send an email to them and copy their direct manager in praising their specific effort. Give them a quick shout out before the next status meeting begins. This creates a hell of a multiplier effect. You make the person feel valued. You show their boss that they're excelling at their role, and then you show the rest of the team that you're the type of leader who has their back and isn't afraid to promote good work. You'd be amazed how many project managers actually don't do this, when it's probably the one thing that can change the morale of a team and indirectly build relationships with people who they don't speak to very often. So when things go well, show your team some love. It builds trust, and building trust builds influence. These become very powerful things when you need your team to pull through in difficult situations. Step number 4, earn your authority through expertise. When you can't rely on a title to move people, you have to rely on your competence. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room on every single topic, but you absolutely have to be the most prepared person in the room. To lead without authority, you need to establish yourself as an expert in answering one very important question. How the f do we do this? Your team members are the experts in design or coding or marketing or whatever. You are the expert who's supposed to bring all of them together to get the win. This is a challenge that every project manager faces on every single project. The easiest way to get the win is knowing your project inside and out. You want to make sure that you're doing the homework to understand the technical side, the business side, the customer side, and how changes from your project will impact each one of them. This is vital information. And you're going to use all of this information to essentially become the hub of information. You're already sharing updates and insights, but when people know that you're the central node for information, they'll naturally start to come to you for direction. Your authority is not going to come from your title, but from the fact that you're the most reliable source of truth for the project. And this is 100% more valuable than any other perception that you can have on a project. Because in the world of project management, it's full of assumptions, best guesses, hopes and prayers. This is a world where the source of truth is worth its weight in gold. And if you become the source of truth, you become invaluable. This is how you earn your authority and make it stick. Step number 5, master the art of productive conflict. Here's something that every project manager knows, and it's probably one of the most cliche things that you hear in project management.
No matter how well you plan, conflict is inevitable.
Leaders delay decisions. Engineers disagree on solutions. Important people like asking for last-minute changes. Vendors screw up implementations. A lot. In other words, shit happens. And these are the moments when your lack of formal authority feel the most painful and the most debilitating. Now, it's very easy for project managers to fall into what we like to call the passive trap here and start waiting for someone else to solve their problem.
I mean, if the guy who's paying for the project is asking for a last-minute change, who am I to tell him no? That's just something we got to do, right?
I mean, if the boss can't make a decision, it's not like I can force him to make a decision, right? Listen, if a couple of guys want to arm wrestle about which code is better in this project, then let's go ahead and watch them do it. It may actually be pretty entertaining, right? Right?
To lead effectively, sometimes you have to do the difficult things like engaging in productive conflict and strategic escalations. Keyword here being strategic. Strategic escalation is not the same as complaining, so don't get those confused. Before you go and run to your manager or your sponsor for help, you have to do a little homework first. Have you already explored other options? Have you clearly documented how this issue is going to impact the project and the people who depend on it? Can you propose a few solutions yourself? If you don't have the answers to those questions, you're probably not ready to escalate yet. When you approach a leader with a well-defined problem and a real recommendation, you're not just asking them for help. You're making it a lot easier for them to make a decision and then support you. This means leaders don't have to think so hard or add your issue to a growing fire pit of issues that they already have to solve. This is what leaders appreciate. It's also what gets you recommended for promotions. Just saying. The art of productive conflict also involves learning how to say no without actually saying the word no. Let me explain. Project managers just don't say no. Most times we're actually not in a position to say the word no without taking some serious heat for it or ruining our positive reputation. A better way to do this is to present the person making the request with a choice, a decision that they have to make quickly. For example, when someone tries to add more work to the project's scope, your job isn't to be a gatekeeper or crush all of their dreams of a small feature add-on.
Even though you absolutely want to do that. You want to crush that dream into oblivion.
Instead, a better way to approach this is to actually be the source of truth. You don't say, no, we can't do that. You say something like this. Yes, we absolutely can explore that. To fit this new request in, we're either going to need to push our deadline back a couple of months or move feature X to the next phase, which could cost us a budget overrun of about $150,000. Which of these trade-offs makes more sense for the business? Suddenly, that request becomes a decision, likely a decision that the requester cannot make or doesn't want to go through the trouble of making in a short period of time, especially if money's involved. You're framing the decision around its consequences, forcing a business-level choice rather than shouldering the burden yourself of just saying no, something that you probably can't say anyway. So turn scope creep into a decision point. This is the best way to say no without actually saying it. You're not the one saying no. The reality of the project is. Okay, people, time to bring it all together. They gave you a project, but they didn't give you any authority. This is the classic paradox for a PM. But now you have a playbook. Number one, you need to frame the mission to inspire people. Remember, tell a story. Don't just give a task list. Number two, you need to be an architect of clarity to remove all friction between you and your project team. Number three, you need to build relational capital to earn trust. Number four, you need to show expertise to gain credibility. And number five, you need to master productive conflict to turn roadblocks into progress. This workplace paradox isn't a dead end. It's an invitation to develop a more sophisticated, resilient, and authentic kind of leadership. It forces you to move beyond just the formal role of giving orders and assigning tasks to mastering the art of informal power and influence. The skills you build here won't just make you a better project manager. They will make you the kind of leader that people want to follow long after the project's done. It's also what gets you recommended for promotions. Just saying. So, I know I've said a lot, and if you made it this far, I want to hear from you. Have you been handed a huge responsibility with zero authority? What was your biggest challenge and how did you get through it? And if you found this playbook helpful, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you know when we're dropping new content. We're gearing up to release a lot of new videos with real practical strategies that are going to help you level up your career and navigate some of the toughest challenges in the modern world of project management. This channel is designed to bring you the secrets, the strategies, and the untaught lessons that textbooks can't put in the neat little paragraphs or diagrams. This is gained from a player who's been in the field for quite some time, and you're all welcome. So until next time, it's Lawrence. Thanks for checking out our channel in AIMPM. We'll see you soon.